Hey friends, today I'm showing you how I made my Riddler mask a la Paul Dano's The Riddler from the Batman. I decided to make it out of duct tape because I fancied a challenge and I wanted to pay homage to the clip from the Batman trailer where the Riddler covers somebody's face entirely in duct tape. At the time I made the mask, the movie hadn't been released yet, so the small glimpses from the trailers is all I had to go by. I got myself some green duct tape, but any colour duct tape should work. I'd kind of hoped that the green duct tape was going to be a little bit darker and a little bit closer in colour to the Riddler's mask from the movie. As you can see, it's a lot brighter and a lot lighter. So I actually ended up later colouring it, spray painting it to make it match the colour of the actual Riddler's mask. So to start with, I'm covering the silicone head, but you could also use a cheap costume mask, one of those paper cardboardy ones. I just happened to have one of these lying around, so it made sense to use it. You can see as well that when I'm covering the strips, I'm going lower than the neckline because it does go down to kind of his clavicle, I would say. And I did 2 layers of duct tape altogether because I felt that one layer just wasn't quite as thick as I wanted it to be. I'm putting powder underneath to stop it from sticking to itself and to make it easier to work with. And I'm having a little hole under the nose because you'll see in his original mask there's a little, the tip of his nose is peeking out a little bit. I mark where the features of the face are according to the silicone head, so the eyes and the mouth. They're approximately the same as my actual face, so it was a good place to start, but I do end up putting the mask on my actual face and kind of going over my actual features with pen again. And they were slightly off, but it wouldn't have mattered too much anyway because I do end up cutting quite big holes where both the markings were. I make the eye holes and the mouth hole quite small to start with because I can always make them bigger at a later point, whereas if I go too big to start with, I have nowhere to really go with it. I end up marking the shape of them according to his actual mask. So the eye holes are a bit rounder compared to obviously my own actual eyes. And then I hold it up to my face and I mark where I'm going to cut the outside of it to make it more the shape I want it to be. I'm cutting out an extra nose piece because this is actually on the original mask is sewn on like a separate piece. I don't know if you can remove it or what, but I wanted it to look like you could. So I cut an extra piece out, made it the shape I wanted it to be, and then sewed it on so it had that stitching like the original mask. Now sewing through, I think at this point around the nose there must have been about 4 or 5 layers of duct tape. It's very thick and very annoying, so this took quite a while and it was a bit of a pain in the butt. I'm now measuring where I want the kind of mouth flap to go. Again, it looks like you can open it. I don't know if he actually can on his actual mask. I make it so you can. And all I'm doing is taking 2 strips of duct tape, sticking one side to the other, and then cutting it to the size I want. Kind of measuring it up against the mouth every now and again. I then get a hole puncher and punch approximately the number of holes that he's got on his mouthpiece. And I try to make them somewhat uniform, but I'm just using my eyes for this bit. I didn't mark anything. Once I've got the right number of holes, I trim it again, make sure it's the right shape, and then I hold it up to the mask and just try it on for size. Once I'm happy with the shape of it and the size of it, I just mark the corners onto the mask so that later when I'm sewing it, I know where I want it to be, where it should be going. And that now allows me as well to just go over the mouth and just cut that hole that little bit bigger just to give myself the space that I would like. When sewing, I only sewed one side of the mouthpiece to the mask, and I sewed some stitches along the top and the bottom as well, but I didn't actually sew it to the other side because I wanted to sew Velcro to that side so I could open and close it if I was to wear it at a convention, that I can open and have a little drink or a snack. I'm now measuring kind of, I guess, the straps that go. There are 2 straps that go along horizontally across the back of the head and 1 strap that goes from the top down along the bottom and kind of holds the other 2 straps. And all I'm doing for this bit is I measured how big I want those straps to be, how long, and then I'm taking a duct tape, measuring it to those measurements that I measured. Can I say measured anymore? I'm cutting it to that size and I'm folding them in half because that's approximately the thickness of the straps. And those are my straps. Once I have my 3 straps all measured and folded over, I hold them against my head and I roughly stick them on and mark where they need to go on the strips. I then stick them down with duct tape and I later end up sewing them into the mask as well, because I actually have to sew around the whole outside of the mask to get that same stitching effect that the original has. I end up cutting off this kind of bib bit at the bottom because I'm not quite happy with how it sits. It's quite stiff, just completely out of duct tape, so I end up cutting it off just so I can sew it back on, and I'm kind of hoping that'll give it a little bit more movement. It does a little bit, but not a huge amount, so I feel like I could have still done something else there to make that a bit more flexible at the bottom, but I wasn't quite sure what I could have done. So I end up stitching all around the outside, like I said, and you can kind of see the stitching there, and I go around it twice because that's, I don't know what you call that stitch, but that's this kind of stitch the original mask has. And once it's all stitched up, and you can see the Velcro is already attached on the mouthpiece as well, but I didn't have any footage of that, I cover the whole thing in Mod Podge because I'm going to be spray painting my mask to get the color, that more accurate green that I'm looking for. Obviously, if you're not that bothered about the color, you don't have to do this bit or the spray painting step, but I'm a bit of a stickler, so I got myself the spray paint of the color that was more accurate, and the Mod Podge just helps it stick that much better to the duct tape. I had a little test run on some sample pieces of duct tape, and I could see that the color just stayed a lot better if I had a Mod Podge layer at the bottom and also sealed it with Mod Podge after the coloring. I'm having to hold the mouthpiece open while the Mod Podge dries because otherwise the mouthpiece would stick to the rest of the mask when it's drying, and I really didn't want that to happen. Once it's all dried, I just put some tape, masking tape, on the little Velcro bits because I don't want any spray paint on those. And then I take it outside to spray paint because I don't have any mask to do it indoors, and I don't have any well-ventilated areas indoors, so I just took it outside. I just do a layer on the front, and then once the front has dried, I do a layer on the straps on the back. And once it's all dried, I do another layer of Mod Podge along the whole thing to seal it all in. There you have it, it's as simple as that. It's not perfect, but I'm pretty happy with it, and I think it's a pretty good homage to the Riddler from the new Batman movie. I had a lot of fun making this, and maybe you will too. I'm still very much a crafter who's learning, so if you've got any tips or tricks of things I could have maybe done a little bit differently, let me know in the comments. Or if you have a go yourself, do tag me. I'm BoardGameYogi on Twitter, Instagram, and pretty much anywhere. So if you have a go, tag me and I'd love to see how yours comes out. I hope you enjoyed this video. There's going to be plenty more cosplay type videos coming to this channel very soon, and I'm very excited about it. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.